Hello, 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 everyone. Hello and welcome. Getting the camera straight here if I can. Hello and welcome to our full moon in Sidereal Scorpio releasing live stream. I am Phaedra. I am the astrologer and artist of Mystic Physick Astrology. And I use Western Sidereal Astrology in my practice, to help you reconnect with your soul purpose, to help you remember why you came, to help you discover ways that you can achieve what you came for. And my aim with these broadcasts is always to provide guidance on how we can consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect our lives in a positive way. And tonight, what we'll be doing is our releasing practice for this full moon, which is happening in Sidereal Scorpio at 13 degrees. And so, welcome. I'm just going to refresh my browser briefly. Hopefully that doesn't interrupt our signal too much here. Just to make sure that if there's questions or comments, hi Danielle, it's good to have you with. I want to be able to catch your comments and your questions, even if there's an issue with the actual broadcast on my phone. So, I think what I need to do is to get back into the group. Oh, there we go. Click the link. Okay. Here's the tricky part. Okay, I think we're good. Alrighty, so let me get my notes pulled up. This particular full moon is kind of an interesting full moon. It's one that has the capability of providing answers. Answers, if you've been doing any kind of research or investigation, deep digging, if you've been asking probing questions of your own self, if you've been on any sort of psychological journey or personal development type of exploration, this particular full moon in Scorpio could bring you answers, some of the answers that you're looking for. Venus is at 13 degrees Scorpio in Danielle's natal chart, and so this is going to be a very personal full moon for you, especially where it lands on your natal Venus, possibly around your value system, around self-worth, potentially around income or earning capacity, around notions of beauty. But that'll be interesting to see what kind of comes up for you, Danielle, and I would be curious if you would keep an eye out and maybe kind of let me know what does come up for you, because it's right there on the same degree as our sidereal full moon in Scorpio. We have hummingbirds, and I can see them out my office window. They come back every year and make a nest in our walnut trees, and they're looking for, I think, either cobwebs. Sorry, totally off track here. They make these amazing, delicate, tiny nests out of cobwebs and dried leaves from last fall. Spider webs, they go around the eaves of the house and the tree, and they pick out spider webs and go back and make their nests, and it's like the coolest thing ever. Anyway, hummingbird right outside my window, totally distracting me. Hi Jonna, it's good to have you. I'm getting back on track after diverging about hummingbirds. You can catch the replay if you need, but it's not important, trust me. Anyway, so this is a this is a full moon, like I was saying, that can bring us answers, which is good. I think that's a very positive expression of this particular full moon, and one to keep an eye out for, an idea to kind of put a pin in that sense. It's also, as I was saying in my post announcing the event earlier, it's an opportunity to let go of grudges, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more depth. It's an opportunity to release some emotional junk that might be just kind of building up and holding us back. And it's an opportunity to deal with fears of vulnerability. That's a big Scorpio theme. And of course, the full moon in Scorpio is an opportunity to let go of whatever might be triggering that fear of vulnerability. And so these are kind of some huge ideas. They're big shift ideas, which fits with, the Scorpionic theme of transformation, right? Hummingbirds are a symbol of change. Yes, and that's actually one of the things that I've always found fascinating about birds themselves, in that, you know, they're messengers, and the messages that they bring have always been meaningful for me. I don't know that I've ever thought to look up the meaning behind hummingbirds, so that's interesting that you bring that up. I'm glad that you happen to know that, Danielle. There's some other birds I'm more familiar with that I've looked up meanings for, but not for hummingbirds. But the idea is that these are some kind of transformational things that we can do with this particular full moon. And I find that really exciting because I love transformation. I love fresh starts and the possibility of new beginnings, and that's something that Scorpio and Pluto, that's kind of an inherent promise of their energy. Okay, so I hope you brought your natal chart. I hope you brought your pen and paper. I hope you are ready to let go of anything that you feel ready to move beyond. And double check your chart for planets or points, like I was saying, at 13 degrees of Scorpio, or even directly opposite that. Okay, so 13 degrees of Taurus, if you have a planet or point in opposition to the full moon, that could bring up issues for you, or even in a square or trine aspect, could bring up something significant for you at this particular full moon. So that's just kind of a point to watch out for. However, you can also proactively use the new moon to finish up or wrap up or launch something that's appropriate to the house that Scorpio falls in your natal chart. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. And so what I'm going to do real quick is kind of run through, like we normally do, what particular house this is falling in for everyone by rising sign, so that you can jot down the house, and I'll run through the themes of that house. And that way, if you're just joining us, if you're not really familiar with house themes, you don't have to try to remember them or look them up in the middle of the broadcast. I'll just run through them for you. Jonna says, my moon is at 3 degrees Scorpio. The orb is a little wide there. There are astrologers that give the luminaries 10 degrees, Jonna. That could be kind of wide, but for the moon, maybe not. Especially since it's your moon aspecting a lunation, right? So it's kind of like double moon power. It's something to note. This is really kind of a good use if you keep a planner, especially if you keep the ultimate astrological planner, which you should, right? Because it's awesome. But if you keep a planner or a journal or a diary, if you kind of pay attention when things are wide or tight to point to planets in your natal chart, and just kind of jot down if something comes up, if something happens, something notable that took place, something that you paid attention to or kind of stuck with you. And then you can kind of over time identify themes, which is one cool thing. You can identify patterns, but you can also get a more clear idea of whether too wide of an orb is worth paying attention to in any given situation, because sometimes if you go too wide, everything looks important, right? Or too tight. Sometimes if you go too tight, you miss other significant things. And so that would be just something, Jonna, I would note, like the date of the new moon, how wide the orb was, and if anything happened, when it did. And then you can go back and kind of look, well, how does this work for me in my own experience of my own transits and how they interact with my natal chart. Danielle is saying, my Mercury is at 7 Scorpio. That's also quite close. And I would say within orb when we're talking about a lunation. So kind of keep these in mind where you have those planetary contacts. It's going to flavor your experience of whatever comes up with what themes and keywords are related to that particular planet, what those influences are. Thank you, Jonna. Thank you. And we need to get back to our conversation about covers because I'm so excited to talk to you more about that. I have some ideas. I have a bunch of questions for you. So anyway, we'll get back to it, which is actually related topic, next year's planner coming soon. Very excited about that. Anyway, back to the full moon releasing. So if you have Aries rising, this is going to be an 8th house full moon for you. So other people's resources, which are at your disposal, investment earnings, insurance, taxes, inheritance monies. If you have any bonus or commission income, but this is also an occult house, so it has to do with themes of death, rebirth, transformation, regeneration, so some very esoteric things that can be quite significant actually for some folks. If you have Taurus rising, this is going to be a 7th house full moon for you, so partnership, marriage, business, your relationships with other people in general, especially committed long-term relationships that you have, but also characteristics and behaviors, things that you reject about yourself. Okay, those can come into the 7th house, and whatever the descendant in your chart is pointing to specifically talks about that. Gemini, 6th house. So work, health, pets, daily routines, your habits, employees if you have them, those are all 6th house themes. Cancer rising is 5th house, so love and romance, creativity, children, so pleasurable activities, right? Sports and hobbies, things that we do for enjoyment or leisure, and also risk-taking, I'm tripping over that word today, risk-taking and gambling are going to fall in the 5th house, okay? Leo, if you have Leo rising, this is 4th house for you. So home, family, real estate, later life, your parents. Danielle says, I hope so, yes. Virgo, 3rd house. So vacation, travel, this is global travel, right? Short distance travel. Also childhood education, siblings and neighbors are going to fall into 3rd house. Your immediate environment, so like your neighborhood, your community. You can watch for things to be coming to fruition in the world around you in very close proximity with a 3rd house full moon, okay? And then Libra, this is 2nd house full moon. So wealth and possessions, expenses, movable assets, money that you earn from the work that you do, not investment income or income that you just kind of come into. And then for Scorpio, this is 1st house, of course. So personality, identity, self-expression, also has to do with your physical body and your appearance, and the role that you play in the world, right? Like how you show up in the world. Those are also governed by the 1st house. And for Sagittarius then, it's going to be a 12th house full moon. So privacy, seclusion, spirituality, unconscious mind, your beliefs, also escapism, drug use, things like that also fall under 12th house. And then Capricorn and 11th house full moon. So this has to do with, I totally copied the wrong notes. It says work, health, pets, daily routines. No, 11th house happens to be friends, organizations, also your hopes and dreams. And that's actually one of my favorite themes of the whole zodiac, hopes and dreams. That one, and it's exactly creativity. I think that's one of my 2nd favorite. Or my, well, I don't know. Maybe they're kind of tied. I don't know. Some people have a conversation about your favorite themes within the chart. Then Aquarius, 10th house. So this is careers, awards, recognition. Your professional life has to do with achievement. So status and reputation. Okay, so both the positive and the negative side of reputation. Okay, and then for Pisces, this is a 9th house full moon. So higher education, long distance travel and communication. So things like publishing, broadcasting, journalism would fall under 9th house. Also religion and philosophy, law. And then with long distance travel, one thing that's important to keep in mind is that immigration is going to fall under long distance travel, right? So it's not just vacation travel or foreign travel. It can be immigration and emigration in that sense, okay? And so let's talk a little bit about Scorpio. If anyone came on late or if you're just joining us, if you need me to recap for you what house this full moon is falling in by your rising sign and what the themes of that house are, just let me know in the comments what your sidereal rising sign is, and I can recap that for you. Excuse me. But we're going to talk about for a minute Scorpio symbology. So Scorpio is, for me, kind of a fascinating energy. It's a fascinating sign. I would say I've kind of had like a love-hate relationship with Scorpio personally, in that I've found it as a sign at times, especially early on in my journey, difficult to understand and difficult to relate to. But as I've explored it more in my own chart, I'm beginning to recognize it better and understand it better. And which is cool because it helps me develop, I think, a little bit more compassionate relationship with Scorpio as a sign and Scorpio energy. And so for me, it's always been kind of fascinating in that it's ruled by Pluto and Mars, right? So Pluto is the modern ruler. Before we discovered Pluto, Scorpio was ruled by Mars. Danielle wants to know, do you believe the moon influences added more than a conjunction by planet? That's a good question, Danielle. I think both of them are extremely influential. I just think that the influence is expressed in slightly different ways, and the ways that they express are influential with their own signature. So like, for instance, the moon, I think that is significant because it is such an intimate expression, right? It's a luminary. It governs our emotional nature, our emotional response to the world around us, and our relationships with the people in that world. And so it's a very, very personal, very intimate type of energy and type of response. But planetary contacts are intense, very intense. And so that, I think, you feel very strongly, but I think they're more influential over broader periods of time and over larger swaths of our life because of the houses and the natures that they rule, than the moon, where it's a little bit more fleeting of an influence. It passes very, very quickly. It's very changeable in nature, right? So Charlie wants to know what to watch for the coming days ahead. That's an excellent question, Charlie. And actually what you're going to want to do for that probably is catch the very last Sidereal Insights Astro Update on the Mystic Physick Facebook page. Or you can also, if you can hold tight a couple days, you can join me on Monday the 4th. It's the 4th. Let me double check, because we're doing our next one. Yes, on Monday the 4th. But I do them every 2 weeks, and I cover the transits for the coming 2 weeks. So if you go pull up the last broadcast on the Mystic Physick Facebook page, and then kind of fast forward it towards the end, you should be able to kind of catch it. Yes, transient. That's the exact word, Jonna. Thank you. That's exactly what I would use to describe. So yes, for the full moon releasing, what we're doing tonight, Charlie, is we're looking at what house today's full moon falls in our natal chart. And we're exploring the energy of that house and the energy of Scorpio, and examining whether there's ways that we can move past or release anything in that house in our natal chart, or in our relationship, our personal relationship with Scorpio in our chart, to help kind of transform our lives and kind of move forward. And so what we've just done is gone through what house this particular full moon is happening in for everyone by rising sign. So if you know your sidereal rising sign, you can let me know. Okay, that's perfect. Good, good, good. And so what we're going to get into now are kind of more the themes of Scorpio as an archetype. So Scorpio is symbolized by the scorpion, right? It has several symbols. Excuse me. The scorpion is one. So one probably most people are familiar with. The snake is another. That's a symbol of Scorpio. The eagle is one, and also the phoenix. Okay, so the phoenix rises from his own ashes. Scorpio as a sign is the sign governing sex, death, transformation, rebirth, and regeneration, and the regenerative ability of our body and of the world around us. As an archetype, though, as a human archetype, it's the archetype of the detective, or the investigator, the mystic, the searcher, and the researcher. So Charlie has Aries rising. And so for Aries rising, Charlie, this is for you an 8th house full moon. And so for 8th house, that has to do with other people's resources, of course, things that are at your disposal through the people in your life. Investment earnings, insurance, taxes, inheritance, bonus and commission income. And then we were just talking actually just now a little bit about some of the more occult meanings of the 8th house and the occult symbology behind the 8th house. And Scorpio is also the archetype of the mystic, in a sense, right? Governing occult themes and esoteric themes. It's the psychiatrist or the counselor. It's a very secretive energy, right? It is very intimately related to the idea of the underworld and the underbelly through its Pluto rulership, right? Vulnerability can still be a strong theme, right? So in terms of that vulnerability nature, so what's Scorpio's instinct, first reaction when they feel threatened, when they feel something is maybe getting too close or they're risking vulnerability, is to respond with that stinger, right? And with most of the Scorpio people that you know, it's probably a verbal stinger, right? Or maybe it's an emotional stinger, but they warn you away with that stinger so that you can't get too close. And so maybe that's related a bit to kind of like a trust theme there. But this is something worth exploring during the full moon about vulnerability and moving past or through any fear of it that might be holding you back. It can be time to transform that fear into something positive that gives you the opportunity to allow yourself to be reborn in a new and improved way that moves you forward. Okay, so one of the things that I want you to consider, so are you letting a fear of vulnerability hold you back? And if so, where and how? What is it you can move past or that you need to let go to overcome or move through this fear, right? Because the only way out is through, and that's especially true with fear. We have to face it. That's the only way to make it go away. That's the only way to conquer fear, is to face it. Are you being secretive? And is that interfering with your ability to form deep connections and trusting relationships with people? Okay. Are you resisting transformation somewhere in your life? Is there something that you're holding on to, that you're used to, that you're accustomed to, that's familiar, maybe, that you're afraid to let go of, even though maybe you've outgrown it, you don't need it any longer? What is it that you're holding on to that's holding off your own personal inner transformation? Where are you stuck in caterpillar mode, in other words, right? Where are you resisting becoming a butterfly? Okay, because that metamorphosis, that kind of transformation, you know, we've all heard that saying about how it seems like the end of the world for the caterpillar, right? Because they don't, you know, it's the end of life as they know it, right? But life is about to become something incredibly beautiful. Can you imagine coming out of a shell and suddenly you have wings and you can fly? Holy amazing, right? That's the type of potential you might be holding yourself back from. And that's what a Scorpio full moon is so useful for in terms of moving past. So think about this in terms of, where are you holding on to something that you can let go? Like I was saying, whether that's a fear of vulnerability or secretiveness and not forming trusting relationships with people, resisting transformation. It could be holding on. So Scorpio as an energy is fixed water, right? So this is an emotional nature, a very still, settled, serene, deep, right? Not active in the way that maybe like a Cancer emotional nature is, because it's governed by that transient moon, right? So this is a still emotional nature, which raises the risk of stagnant emotional energy, which is what is behind the Scorpio tendency to hold on to a grudge, because you can't move past that wound, and the fact that you let yourself be vulnerable. You're maybe not moving into forgiveness. Maybe you're holding on to resentment of the person that wounded you, right? So these are things that can come up during a Scorpio full moon. And so if you find that, yes, you've been holding on to a grudge, you're holding on to a resentment, you've been holding on to something like that, what's the emotional junk behind that you've been keeping in a box in your mental closet somewhere? What is the emotional junk that you need to just chuck out and let go? What is it that's behind that grudge? And what I want to mention in that, especially if it's around the idea of forgiveness, it's okay if you can't find forgiveness in the moment, especially in the moment when you want to let it go and move past it. If you're still hung up on that, you haven't reached that point of forgiveness, that's okay. Just allow yourself to be open to the possibility, okay? Just give yourself permission to be open, and you can allow it to come in its own good time. But that doesn't mean you have to continue holding on. You can let the junk go. So tonight's a night to let the junk go. And like I was saying, to also break through fears of vulnerability if you have any of that. Okay, so let's explore that, kind of the nature of the butterfly, and transforming ourselves and letting go of fear of the unknown future, fear of change and transformation, okay, and fear of death even. So what I want you to do is grab your pen and paper. I'll run back through these again really, and start writing down, thinking about things that you maybe are ready to release, okay? And put it down on your paper in your own words. So where can you move through a fear of vulnerability? What can you let go of that's keeping you in fear, or that is how you're allowing fear to hold you back? Can you let go of being secretive? Are you resisting forming deep connections with other people, forming trusting bonds? Is there a grudge or some other kind of stagnant emotional energy or emotional junk that you're ready to move past? Where can you get out of caterpillar mode and welcome the nature of the butterfly? Okay, so everyone take just a few moments with your pen and paper and write down what it is you would like to release with tonight's full moon, and we will come back and hopefully share something that we're ready to move past tonight. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes and we'll catch up in a few. Does anyone need a few more minutes? If you do, let me know. If you're just joining us, you might want to catch the replay. We are just jotting down some ideas, statements, concepts that might be coming up for us individually around what it is we would like to move past or let go of in conjunction with the full moon in Scorpio. We went through which particular house this full moon was happening in for each of us by rising sign and what the themes of that house were, and that way, if you want to tie it in that closely with your natal chart, you can explore it on a house-by-house basis, where Scorpio energies or Scorpio behaviors or tendencies might be interfering with your ability to move forward or move beyond things that you've outgrown. And so we're just wrapping up writing about what it is that we'd like to let go of. And we're about to step into the final and exciting part of a full moon releasing practice, which is the actual releasing. And so what some of us do is I like to burn my statement about what it is I'm letting go of, to like symbolically, to physically and metaphysically release that energy back into the universe. Kind of recycle, right? Reduce, reuse, recycle. That's what we're doing on an energetic level. And what's fascinating is that that transforms. Doing it on an energetic level then subsequently allows it to happen on a physical level, allows it to manifest for us on the physical plane, that releasing and clearing out old, outgrown nonsense, right? That's what it basically boils down to. And so I'm going to share with you, actually, I've kind of been looking forward to this particular full moon, excuse me. I'm going to confess to that because in conjunction with the last Mercury retrograde that we had, I was getting back to an old home renovation project that my husband and I had started last year that we hadn't finished up. We were putting in a dishwasher in home, which is almost 100 years old and never had one before. And so it was quite an undertaking. And so that right there really informs for me what it is that I'm ready to move past. So I have Gemini rising by the Sidereal zodiac. And so for me, this is a 6th house full moon. It is work, health, pets, daily routines. And it's the daily routines parts, the habits and daily routines that I'm focusing on with this. I have been so ready for the longest time to move past the daily routine of washing dishes by hand. It drives me crazy. It takes so much time. I have so many better things to do, and I'm excited that I'm finally at a point in my life where, guess what? Now I have freed up, you know, maybe 5, 7, 10 hours a week. And guess what, guys? I'm going to spend it writing about astrology. So you guys get the benefit of that, which I'm really excited about, especially over the summer. But I'm ready to move past that old morning routine. Like we had this pattern that we, you know, repeated every day, every morning, that revolved around washing dishes by hand. And it was a very time intensive. It was lovely in the sense that my husband and I would get to visit over dishes, which is great. But it was very time intensive, and it very much slowed down our ability to get started with important things during the day and gain momentum. We both work at home, and so this is kind of a big deal. And so I wrote in my statement, I'm ready to move past that. I'm ready to move past stagnation in my daily routine and in my daily habits. Part of the reason why I'm welcoming this opportunity for change is because in the last couple of years, I've gotten out of the habit of my daily meditation habit, and I've gotten out of habit of my 3-time-a-week exercise routine, and I really want to invite those habits back into my life. And so this is going to free up a crazy amount of time for me to start adding back in some of those positive habits, some of the positive parts of my daily routine. I just had Saturn come through that house, and yeah. He just like utterly destroyed every good habit I had going on during his tour. Jonna says, let's see here. Charlie says, I have let go, but others haven't. I'm going, but others I'm watching cause and effect. My actions and others unfolding. I'm very emotional because of it. Yes. You know, and that is not unsurprising, especially at a Scorpio full moon, because Scorpio is a water sign. It's an emotional nature, right? And it's going to bring those emotions a lot closer to the surface, which can be very challenging. The positive side to that is that it's a wonderful opportunity to process those emotions and to kind of work through them a little bit. Like, even if it's such a big thing that you can't work through it completely, if you can work through a small part of it and process a small part of it, that can help you to move forward. The other thing that I have found hugely influential, Charlie, is just being willing and being open to the possibility of releasing it, being open to the possibility of moving on and finding healing. And I would say that that's significant as a concept in itself tonight, especially because Scorpio is the 8th house is associated with healing. It's associated with regeneration, and so it's a wonderful opportunity to deal with some strong or potentially intense emotion, and to welcome in some healing and to process some of that. And I wish you well in your own doing of that, in your own processing of that. Jonna says, I'm releasing fears of my past, my hometown. As I'm moving back, I'm releasing fears of taking my kids their deep stuff. Release the propensity to sink into old and negative beliefs. Toss the old emotional crapola. Let's just gross, releasing fears of being seen as human. Release the tendency to stay trapped in below mediocre mindset. Lots of Scorpio goop, right? And it's sticky goop, isn't it? It's just like, clingy goop. Scorpio goop. Scorpio cooties. So that's a big one. Jonna, and I commend you. Throwing my pen down. I don't know that I would have the courage to move back to my hometown. I just don't know that I would really want to do that. Not that I don't know that I necessarily have bad memories of it, but maybe, I don't know. I just like to think that that's something I've moved past and moved beyond and outgrown, and where it helped shape me, and I'm grateful for how it helped shape me, but I don't necessarily want to go back there. So props to you for being willing to do that. And props to you for being willing to face the possibility that it's probably going to bring up some of these things for you. That's okay. I'm not on cable. If I get on cable, we'll worry about it then. I don't care. I would have said that word. It's in my nature to use those naughty words myself all the time, and I have a really hard time sometimes holding myself back on the live streams, but I do what I can. I do what I can. And yes, I'm ready to release my old morning routine. And this is the fun part. I'm ready to invite new ways of enjoying the early hours of the day. And hopefully those new ways involve meditating and meditating. So here's what we do at this point in the broadcast. So we have our statement. We write down what it is we're wanting to let go of. You know, and it can be a person, place, thing, event, energy, emotion, experience, anything that you've outgrown. So you're going to burn paper, or you're going to tear it up. Doesn't matter what you do, but you're going to destroy it, and in the process of destroying it, you're going to release this. So in a fire-safe place, if you're burning it, do it in a fire-safe place. Okay? Be safety first, always. Okay. Or like I said, tear it up. But if you have a fireplace, if you have a barbecue grill, do it outside. If you have a kitchen sink, keep water handy. I keep a fire extinguisher handy personally because I'm more comfortable that way. But what you're going to do is you're just going to burn it. If you burn it completely, okay? And you're going to just state aloud as you're burning it that I release this old stagnant morning routine that no longer serves me. And I'm going to release this routine with my gratitude because it did bring me a lot of really positive benefits. I know that I complained a lot about washing dishes during the last, 7 years that I was doing it, but it brought a lot of positive into my life at the same time doing it. And so I am releasing it with gratitude for the lessons that it brought to me, because that is significant, and I do appreciate those lessons. And I encourage you too to try to approach your releasing practice with a little bit of extra gratitude tossed in for whatever it is you're letting go of, because it did serve you while it was here. And then once you're done, there's an opportunity at the end here to spend a few moments in kind of meditation or in quiet reflection. Charlie has a question about advice on your feeling about the Capricorn girl that you're in love with. Charlie, that's a difficult one to do on a broadcast like this. Mostly because it's far easier if I have birth information, if I can see charts, that sort of thing. And it's to kind of get a little more specific to you and your situation. If you want to book a chat with me, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to book a reading, I do offer relationship readings, or you can also, I offer relationship reports. So whichever you think would fit you best, and we can chat about that. If you want to connect with me off of the live stream, I welcome you to do that. You can reach out to me either through the Mystick Physick Facebook page, or you can message me. But yeah, we can talk about that if you'd like some advice on that. Capricorn love, squanchy feelings in a Capricorn heart. I'm always down to talk about that. Having a Capricorn sun myself. But thank you. I want to thank you for joining me, and thank you for taking the time to practice the releasing ceremony. And even if you're not comfortable sharing what it is you let go of and moved beyond with this particular full moon, I'm glad that you always can join us. And it's never too late. Catch the replay. If you can't join us live, definitely catch the replay, because you do have the day before, the day of, and the day after any full or new moon to capitalize on the strongest influences of it. And then, of course, the 10 days after every new or full moon to take advantage of implementing the energy. So there's never a lost opportunity, even if you can't join me live. And I understand for a lot of folks, you know, that timing, because we do it at 7:30 in the evening on Mountain Daylight Time. I know that can be challenging for some folks, especially if you're farther east or our friends in the UK. But you can always do it the very next day. It's not too late, and I would encourage you to do so, because it does, releasing stagnant energy out of your life is an important step to clearing space to invite new energy into your life. And that new energy is going to come in 6 months from now when we have our next new moon in Scorpio. And so capitalizing on the full moon lunation to clear the old stuff that you've outgrown really kind of prepares the ground. It gives it about 6 months to lie fallow and kind of recuperate before life brings you something new in that part of your life. And so that's one of the very, very positive reasons that I think full moons can be super important for doing that clearing. Okay, Jonna says this thing's really taking its time burning today. It's not ready to, you know, and especially given what you're letting go of, Jonna, I'm not surprised, but be persistent, and I guarantee you that will be worthwhile, absolutely, to burn it all the way through. And Charlie says, thank you for your time. You're very, very welcome, Charlie, and thank you for joining me. It's wonderful to have you on the live streams. I appreciate every one of you that joins me live, and even those of you that watch the replay. If you have questions or comments, don't hesitate, especially if they're about anything that we talked about tonight. Leave them for me in the comment section on the broadcast. I will come back and answer them. If you have other questions or comments on other topics or general about current transits or other astrology related topics, feel free to post your questions in the Sidereal Insights Facebook group. I'm happy to come in and answer your questions. I am under deadlines right now, I will warn you, because we're at the end of the month, and because I've had this shift in my schedule, opening up new time for me to do more writing. What I'm doing in the next couple of weeks, and just kind of get you up to date, I've implemented a schedule that should see our July horoscopes published at the end, I want to say, of the first week of June. Week and a half. Let me get my calendar pulled up and I'll give you a tentative date. How about that? So I'm cranking through June horoscopes and then diving right into July, basically. And then late June, we'll be doing our August horoscopes, and then I'll be jumping right into September, because I want to have a buffer between what I'm writing and when you're reading. Okay? So ideally what will be happening then, if you're a subscriber for advanced access to the horoscopes, you're going to be able to have access a full month ahead. That's the plan. And ideally we're going to be in that place next month now. This also comes up right in line with putting together the 2019 planner. And as I told you folks last year, this year we're going to do an academic planner. So that's a July to June planner. And I also think I might run that as an 18-month planner. So there's some changes going into effect, and it's because I want to be able to release the planner here within the next month and a half or so, for folks who are getting ready to buy their planners for like academic use or whatever. So we're adding some new types of planners, some new features, we're making some changes. All of that is going to be taking place in June as well. So it's going to be a busy month. But right now, like I was saying, I'm under deadline and in through the next week. So this would have, so ideally, I would have July published by the 8th of June. That's my target that I'm working towards for you. Okay, so that would get you July within, say, the next week and a half or so. And then you have a month advance access every month after that. That's the goal. Okay. Exactly. I know. I'm excited about that, John. That's why I'm so excited about having a dishwasher. It saves so much time. So much time. And so I will keep you posted. We're going to have, of course, a new Sidereal Insights Astro update on Monday the 4th. So I should be able to give you a status update on that. Catch me live on that broadcast. It's 1:30 Mountain Time on the Mystic Physick Facebook page. That's 3:30 Eastern Time, and I believe 8:30 British Standard Time if you're over in the UK. But I will update you then, and we'll talk more too about current transits, what's going on, what to expect for June. There's some exciting things going on in June, and some not so exciting things, but some exciting things. But thank you for joining me. It's been wonderful to have everyone on, and I wish you a very blessed full moon. And I hope you have an easy and pleasant and peaceful time moving through whatever it is that you're letting go of this evening. And thank you for joining me, and we'll catch you all next time. Join me, like I said, on Monday the 4th at 1:30 Mountain Daylight Time. And we'll see you then. Thanks so much. Bye.